Be a killer from a full-time hunter. Chapter 21-40. Chapter 21 _ Distance and the fight with Bert Naden. A week has passed. Over the course of the week, Yi registered 4 consecutive 200-tier competitions. As a result, without exception, Yi won. It's a pity that these battles have nothing to gain except contributing 2% of the unlocking progress to Yi. Gradually, Yi's sense of anticipation for the Sky Arena disappeared. Maybe it's time to get out of here. After finishing the meditation, Yi came to the window of the room. At a height of several hundred meters, the crowd flows like ants. The current Sky Arena, without Hisoka present, can no longer make his strength one step closer. Leaving here has become an inevitable result. The 2 purposes of Yi's coming to the Sky Arena have already been achieved. 1. Intercept the mission target Bert Naden. 2. Learn to read the ability, and learn the 4 elements. Now not only has Bert Naden been killed, but he has also learned how to use the mind under the guidance of Yun Ji-yu. It can be said that Yi gained a lot this time. More importantly, the time is right now, just in time for the beginning of the so-called plot. December 27, 1998. There is still a week left before the Hunter trial begins. Yi didn't intend to join the so-called protagonist group. The Hunter's license is a big killer, and he has already planned to get it. It's just that time collided with the protagonist group. After confirming the next goal, Yi began to pack up his belongings. However, although it is to clean up, it is nothing more than clearing the personal information that may be left in the room. After an hour, Yi simply carried a small bag and walked out of the Sky Arena. In order to avoid being stopped by the fanatical fans, he also made a special disguise, and now walks the street in the appearance of a 15-year-old girl. As a killer, disguise is a required course. After awakening the ability to read, this skill becomes more handy. On Youngu's side, he entrusted the staff of the Sky Arena to hand him a letter, which is a farewell. It's just that Yi didn't realize that the moment he walked out of the Sky Arena, a shadow on the tall building in the distance seemed to follow behind him. Train Transportation Center. Whether or not the Hunter test was approaching, the airship route to the surrounding areas of Saba City was discontinued. The reason is that in the next week, there will be strong airflow, and for the safety of passengers, the airship will be stopped. The reason is reasonable and no one can refute it. For this kind of behavior, Yi guessed that the Hunter Association didn't want to take the candidates, and it was so easy to reach the test club. I bought a few train tickets. In the next week, I had to constantly change trains every night, and finally took a boat to the city of Saba. After boarding the train, I found my room to rest. Now that Yika has more than 1 billion rennies in it, he wouldn't treat himself and others forcibly in the same workshop. Simply spend money to buy a luxury sleeping ticket. But to rest, that is, to meditate. After acquiring the Meditator 1 ability, Yi replaced his sleep with it. Of course not all the time. It is only when you are walking outside that you choose to meditate. 3 days later, the train entered a new area, and Yi also followed the crowd to get off and transfer. This train is a bit special. It was only during the moment of the transfer that Yi discovered some clues. The new train to transfer, although the material seems to be the same as before, is ordinary steel. But when I walked into the train, the sound from my feet, and a more mellow muffled sound. It seems that he is deliberately telling others that there is a problem with the train. While seemingly the same, the materials used can be completely different. Yi smiled without making a sound. Just follow the train ticket in hand and walk towards your car. However, he did not find that in the car that was boarding, a woman had been observing the entrance. The change in Yi's expression was caught in her eyes. It's rare for someone to find out that there may be an option to cooperate. No weird thoughts. This woman secretly remembered the direction Yi left. On the other hand, Yi didn't know that someone had made up his own mind ahead of time. Putting away the small bag, he closed his eyes and fell asleep, ready to deal with the next emergency at any time. Time passed little by little, and I don't know how long it took. Yi suddenly felt an increase in a lot of breath. Plenty of even, equal breaths. Open your eyes and open the partition of the room. At this moment, the moonlight has fallen, and many people have fallen into a deep sleep. And those breaths that suddenly appeared, quietly sneaked into each compartment. As soon as he opened the window of his room at night, he turned over slightly. Came to the top of the train. As for the life and death of the passengers below, what does it have to do with him? They were just strangers who didn't meet. Bang tilde bang tilde bang tilde. Suddenly, there was a sound of gunshots. A large number of sleeping passengers were awakened. However, they found that everyone was tied up with ropes in advance and could not move at all. In all the carriages, there were several men in black clothes and hoods with submachine guns in their hands. Hand over your valuables one by one, so that we won't take your life. These robbers go to a person and take a person's money. If he refuses, he will be greeted by several black rumbling muzzles. Under the suppression of force, everyone chose to surrender. Many people cried when they saw this scene. Damn it, my hunter trial ended before it even started. How can I go to the test site if I don't have money? Won't the police care if something like this happens? When will they come over? Complaints came one after another. Bang tilde bang tilde bang tilde. The robber seemed to be upset by the noise. He picked up the gun in his hand and shot at the top of the car. You rubbish, keep arguing, this is your end. The scene was instantly quiet. But Yi was not interested in what happened next. At this moment, he is facing an uninvited guest. 2 more offer. Ask for a review for flowers. Chapter 22 Sir, don't mind if I hide here too. Seeing that another person was dug out from the room before him, Yi's expression was a little subtle. So many rooms are not selected, but they are turned out from their own room. Clearly her goal is herself. He wears sunglasses and has long blonde hair. A woman with an equally cold temperament. Yi felt a little familiar to this person, but couldn't remember it for a while. Start recalling, is it someone you have met in the past year? As soon as I boarded this train, I vaguely noticed something was wrong. The visitor didn't care about Yi's face, but started talking about himself. I was wondering if this would be a hunter test, so I subconsciously started to observe candidates who were as capable of spotting different candidates as I was. Unfortunately, among so many people, you are the only one who can find anomalies. Reaching out, he pushed the sunglasses on his eye sockets to the tips of his hair. The delicate face was exposed in Yi's eyes. So let's form a team. As the 2 most observant people in this group, forming a team is the best course of action. The moment he took off his glasses, a pair of emerald green eyes were reflected in the night. The memory of this person flashed from his mind in an instant. A smile unconsciously emerged from the corner of Yi's mouth. I didn't expect it to be this woman. If it's you, I agree to team up. Hearing Yi's reply, the woman also raised a faint smile. My name is Shiba, and I am good at using all kinds of firearms. The right hand stretched out to Yi. The hand was as soft as a catkin, the skin was as creamy, and it didn't look like a hand that used firearms for a long time. Yi, my name is Yi. Yi also stretched out his hand. Good luck with our cooperation. The 2 hands clasped together and left. Next, let's complete this test together first, so as to break in our tacit understanding. What is your opinion? Now that the partnership has been established, Shiba is not hypocritical. Prepare to complete this sudden experiment with Yi. Yi nodded and acquiesced. Although they had formed a team, the 2 had never had any experience of cooperation. It would be a good choice to have this test to run in. Since it is the Hunters Association's test for us, then the robbers below are definitely not real. Although they have cooperated, Yi did not reveal Nian's existence. After all, it is the first time to get along, and it is necessary to observe the character of the other party. If he reached the qualified line in Yi Yi's heart, he would naturally not hide the existence of his thoughts. If the robbers are pretending, do we want to find a way to rescue the passengers below? Hearing Yi Yi's guess, Shiba was not surprised. Apparently she had a similar idea before. Shaking his head, Yi Yi was a little disappointed with Shiba's approach. However, considering that she has not come into contact with Nian and the group of real hunters, this is not a big problem. No need, this group of hunters is a completely different group from ordinary people. For them, they cannot be treated in conventional ways. Shiba was a little surprised by Yi Yi's indifferent tone. She believes that her ideas, as a candidate, are not wrong. But since Yi Yi said this, he must know a lot about the hunter. Under this idea, she did not refute. Instead, he quietly waited for Yi Yi to explain. As a hunter, you need to go to various secret realms or accept various dangerous commissions. Therefore, strength is the only test for a hunter. Of course, I'm not saying that knowledge is unimportant, it's just that knowledge is relatively minor compared to absolute strength. Speaking of this, Yi Yi paused, waiting for Shiba to react. Shiba, who nodded and listened, nodded slightly, indicating that he understood Yi Yi's meaning. Continue to explain at night. So, relative to the average person who doesn't have a keen smell to sense danger, they don't have the qualifications to be a hunter. Although it's not obvious yet, when the real hunter is tested, you will find out what monsters you are facing. Yi Yi looked at Shiba, who was listening carefully. In the original book, in her fourth experiment, she was supposed to snipe at Jitaraku, but was killed and took away the number plate. Now that I have my own existence, this kind of tragedy will not happen again. The hunter test conducted in advance like this is used to screen out the useless residues that are trying to mix into the hunter test. Millions of people sign up for the test every year, but the number of people who can reach the test room is only about 500. Quote. Yi Yi's icy tone made Shiba shudder subconsciously. They are all human beings, but they are called useless residues. Such arrogance, is it a hunter's world? A doubt flashed in Shiba's heart. But the next moment, it was replaced by the desire in my heart. If she didn't know what the hunter's world was like, she could still live with the attitude of the past. But the Pandora's box in Shiba's heart has been opened by Yi Yi. If you don't want to be called a scum, you have to be a hunter. If someone can be a hunter, why can't it be herself? Interesting remarks, I remember them. The smile is still cold, but it has a different charm than before. Shiba, whose mentality changed in advance, also changed his aura. This change made Yi Yi beside him stunned. He was surprised that Shiba was able to change his mentality under his own words. However, considering that Shiba, as a female, was able to survive the fourth trial without injury, her own capital is definitely better than that of Bakugan. If he hadn't met Jitaraku, perhaps there would have been another hunter in Xiaoji's class. Okay, what should be explained has been explained to you, so tell me what we should do next. He clapped his hands, drawing Shiba's attention back, and asked for her opinion. Yi Yi wanted to know what choice Shiba, who changed his own thinking, should make. If you are qualified, you may be able to cooperate for a long time in the future. Still very optimistic about Xiaoji and Chi-Chi's intrusion. Not for anything else, just hoping to help each other in times of difficulty. After all, Yi Yi is not a god, and there are many things that he cannot do. I think. 3 more offer. I really like this character, it's a pity to die like that. Chapter 23_. Although it was only a few short sentences, Yi Yi's remarks gave an overview of the hunter organization. Incompetent, not suitable to join this organization. Even if there are occasional fish that slip through the net, their end is never very good. Judging from the fact that Bakur turned into Bakugan, a conclusion can be drawn. It's okay to kill yourself, but also to kill with his teammates. involving Pengsi has also become a dessert for the ants. Since hunters don't need these so-called residues, we can just ignore them. Shiba began to introduce new ideas. After getting rid of those residues, our actions become smoother. After all, we don't have to worry about others and our hands and feet are bound. First, observe the actions of those fake robbers, judge their so-called leaders through all their subconscious behaviors, and find ways to capture them. I think this should be the fastest way to solve this test. After rethinking, Shiba's thinking became clear. Although there are some minor problems, for her without the ability to wake up, this is already very good. Clap tilde clap tilde clap tilde. Applaud slightly, expressing appreciation. Being able to think of this method in such a short period of time was beyond Yi-Yi's expectations. Your idea is very good, it's just a little problem, but these problems can be solved after you get the hunter's license. Now listen to me carefully. Yi-Yi's applause made Shiba's heart jump for a moment, but the next words made her joy disappear without a trace. Shiba also didn't know why his mood changed repeatedly because of a man he had known for less than 5 minutes. Perhaps Yi-Yi's icy aura was similar to his own, or perhaps Yi-Yi's analysis of the experiment was admirable. You can only comfort yourself with this thought. 1. The robbers have not killed any hostages since the beginning, but only used special means to make them fall into suspended animation. 2. According to my observation, this train has 18 carriages, of which there are 14 carriages for passengers. The 14 carriages has 5 robbers carrying out robbery work. 3. The 5 robbers in each car have exactly the same personnel distribution, that is, 2 robbers shot the hostages to deter the hostages, 2 robbers blackmailed the hostages, and 1 robber was smoking and watching. Yi-Yi looked at Shiba, whose complexion gradually changed due to his own analysis, and became more and more appreciative of her. You mean, the robbers in the 14 carriages have the same pattern of action? The analysis of the first 4 robbers has already made Shiba a little suspicious, but this can also be explained by training. But the actions of the last robber left her completely confused. 14 carriages, 14 robbers are smoking and watching. This kind of thing, she can't explain it by coincidence. The content of this test is likely to test the examinee's observation, vigilance, and response to emergencies. Seeing the confusion on Shiba's face, Yi-Yi ignored it and continued to explain. This trial has 3 chances. Respectively. 1. When you notice the abnormality of the train when you get on the train, it is difficult to be held by robbers when you are on guard. 2. Be vigilant, even if you don't find any problems with the train, but as long as you remain vigilant, when you find the messy footsteps of the robbers, leave the carriage as soon as possible, come to the top of the train, and wait for an opportunity. 3. Even if the first 2 opportunities are not seized and the robbers are held hostage, after handing over the money, when the robbers are blackmailing the other hostages, wait for the opportunity to break the ropes on the body, and take advantage of the 4 robbers not paying attention. So robbers who smoke are anti-hijacking. Shiba's pupils shrank suddenly, she didn't think so much at all. Is this the gap between me and him? At this moment, Shiba felt that he was a joke, and said that the 2 formed a team to help each other. In the end, it was Yi-Yi who was explaining it to her alone, and he played no role at all. Looking at Shiba's expression, Yi-Per could also guess what she was thinking. But Yi-Yi didn't enlighten her. He had already said so much. Whether he could digest it or not was Shiba's own business. Compared to Shiba, the man who suddenly appeared in Yi-Yi's original carriage was the most noteworthy. Am I right, Mr. Examiner? Shiba, who was still doubting his life, had no time to doubt his life after hearing Yi-Yi's words. Subconsciously put on an alert stance. I didn't expect that. I haven't been an examiner for a few years. This year, I will have such a windfall on a whim. The voice fell, and a person was found in Yi-Yi's room again. At night, the expression of disgust leaked out of consciousness. It's not good to come from there. 1 or 2 of them have to go from their own rooms to the roof of the car. This is an old man about 1.8 meters tall. Judging from the breath on his body, the time he spent cultivating thoughts was probably older than Yi-Yi's age. Also, the existence that can release nearly 100 thoughts and chi clones is not a pervert, or an old antique who has been practicing for an unknown number of years. Your analysis is correct, and you have discovered the drawbacks that I didn't even think of myself. The old man did not hide his appreciation for Yi-Yi at all. That guy in the afternoon, if he hears your analysis, he should like you very much. Yi-Yi didn't say anything, just looked at the old man quietly. Compared with the 12 earthly branches that are temporarily unavailable, such as Wu and Yu, it is still more important to pass the test. Seeing Yi-Yi's look, the old man smiled helplessly. Well, you young people are really so impatient, you can't even satisfy a wish to chat with an old man. Then his face turned. I announced as an external examiner for the hunter test that Yi-Yi and this little girl Shiba have passed the test. Obviously, the arrival of the old man came much earlier than Yi-Yi discovered. The names of the two were only said once when they were introducing each other. The old man was able to say the names of the two people, and obviously he had already discovered that the two were on the roof of the car. Arriving at Dolly Island by this train, you can go directly to the main venue of the hunter test. Let's have a good rest. After speaking, the old man left with a smile, obviously very satisfied with the results of this test. Yi-Yi pressed his top hat and didn't speak. Shiba, who was on the side, looked at Yi-Yi's profile at this time, wondering what he was thinking. 4 more offer. Ask for flowers, ask for collections. The comment section is pretty cool too. Chapter 24 2 days later. That is, on January 3rd, the train arrived at the end. Among the candidates who were whining and complaining, Yi-Yi and Shiba leisurely got into a small car. This car will take the two directly to the hunter venue. In the car, Yi-Yi held the magic gun and entered the state of sword meditation, in order to further deepen the connection between himself and the magic gun. Shiba on the side was not idle either, unloading all the weapons on his body and carrying out maintenance work one by one. Although she has been doing this work for the past few days, but thinking that the hunter test will start next, I am afraid that she will not have time to maintain it. The car fell into a quiet state, except for the occasional sound of Shiba wiping his weapon. Such an inexplicable atmosphere made the staff who drove the two to the examination room tremble with fear. In fact, it's not that the staff is weak, it's just that after Yi-Yi entered the state of Dao Zen, if there is no sense of oppression, it exudes. Even Shiba on the side was slightly affected. Fortunately, the end of the train was not too far from the Hunter's Test Club, only 3 hours away. Perhaps feeling oppressed, the staff driving the car just finished the 3-hour journey in 2 hours. This is the test club for the Hunter test. After you enter, keep walking and you will arrive in about 10 minutes. The staff threw the two of them in front of an abandoned bungalow, and then drove away. With a burst of exhaust emissions, the staff disappeared from the eyes of Yi-Yi and two people. Only the two of them looked at the dilapidated building in front of them that seemed to collapse at any time. Although Yi-Yi knew that the entrance of each hunter test was placed in an unattractive place, the entrance in front of him was a little too shabby. In contrast, Xiaoji's barbecue restaurant looks extraordinarily luxurious. Yi-Yi, do you want to go in? Shiba, how about? Find a new entrance. Yi-Yi, are you sure? Shiba, forget it, let's go in from here. Entering this dilapidated cottage is like an ordinary abandoned old house. The only difference is the bottomless underground tunnel in the backyard. The two looked at each other and walked towards the tunnel together. Entering this tunnel reminded Yi-Yi of memories from many years ago. Very narrow at the beginning, talented people. After walking for dozens of steps, he suddenly became enlightened. As soon as they entered the tunnel, they could only walk side by side, but after walking a dozen steps, the tunnel expanded little by little. On both sides of the tunnel, there are 2 columns of torches burning for lighting. 10 minutes later. The two stopped, the end and the coming. An iron gate is embedded in the wall beside it. However, although it is said to be an iron gate, the material is probably dozens of times harder than ordinary iron. Beside the iron gate, there is a display screen and a working camera. Yi took a few steps forward, walked to the display screen. A large Arabic numeral 5 is displayed on it. Ding! Qualified candidates detected. Yi, pass. The camera on the side starts scanning the moment it walks to the display screen at night. The iron gate is like a Japanese-style sliding door, slowly closing into the wall next to it. At the same time, a sign marked number 66 protruded from the side. After turning back and nodding to Shiba, he picked up the sign and entered first. The number on the display, after entering the night, changed from 5 to 4. Obviously, this entrance is limited by the number of people entering it. After exceeding this limit, even if you have also completed the test and come here, you will not be able to enter the test room. You can only find the entrance of the test club again. Sometimes luck is also very important. Entering the venue, there are dozens of people sparsely in it. At the moment of entering the night, almost everyone turned their attention. Pung tilde. An invisible murderous aura emanated from Yi's body. The next moment, the candidates who were trying to look at Yi retracted their gazes one after another. This night, no one dared to provoke him. Certain fat man who looks simple and honest, but is actually a famous detective. His belly is full of bad water, and he simple ly retracts his legs. Originally, Jian Yi was not very old, and he was going to let Yi see the sinister society. But as soon as he opened his legs, he silently took it back. There was only one person, not only did not feel the slightest discomfort at Yi's murderous aura, on the contrary, he became extremely excited. Ripe apples. No, not yet fully mature. Time, it will take a while. I really look forward to it. Ho tilde ho tilde ho tilde ho tilde. The man leaning against the wall couldn't hide the excitement on his face. No, you have to be restrained, you must be restrained. The candidates standing around, subconsciously left this dangerous person. The other side. Shiba also took the number plate and walked out of the iron gate. However, unlike number 80 in the original book, this time it should have entered the venue ahead of schedule with Yi, and the number plate this time was number 67. The number on the display, after you enter it, becomes a 4. Quote. The first thing he did when he came in was Yi talking about his discovery. Nodding casually, showing that he knows. Then, the two found a corner and waited quietly. This wait is 5 days. The originally quiet venue was also filled with noisy voices unknowingly. The number of people has also expanded from dozens of people to more than 500 people. During this period, people who were familiar with each other came to the venue, and they were all targets on the organization's assassination list. For these people, Yi secretly remembered their information. Although he is currently in the hunter test, Yi doesn't mind getting extra money. Moreover, the next unlock progress of the inheritance characters is 25%, which is not a small amount for the current Yi. For the time being, it can only be accumulated bit by bit. Drip tilde. The elevator door on the side opened again. 3 familiar figures walked out. Xiaoji, Liu Li, Kurapika. Seeing the arrival of these 3 people, Yi's mouth raised a smile. The hunter trial has finally begun. As the participants of the last 3 trials, their arrival also anticipates the start of the trial. Thank you for the flowers and rewards. I was blinded when I saw it, and there were more than 2,000 flowers. Chapter 25 After the trio entered the venue, a familiar short and fat man walked in their direction. Dongba. Looking at the figure, Yi recalled his information. Dongba. Nickname, Rookie Killer. Although he has a broad stature, he is very agile, and is characterized by a nose that is close to a square. The purpose of participating in the hunter test is not to obtain a license, but to observe all kinds of candidates, and later he is keen to terminate the newcomer. He likes to pull his legs, lie, and even invite people to drink juice with laxatives. He has passed the hunter test 35 times but failed once. On the organization's list, there is a reward of 10,000 ringgani. Converted into soft sister coins, it is almost equivalent to 200 yuan. It is estimated that who has been implicated by Dongba in the hunter test and released the reward in a fit of rage. But it's a joke-like amount that makes all killers stay away from the task. For fear of lowering his own compulsion. Knight is no exception. 10,000 jiani, he went out to eat casually, more than this price. The other side. Dongba, who did not know that he had been offered a reward for many years, enthusiastically handed juice to Xiaoji and others. Xiaoji, who has just been recruited, and Liu Li, who has a lot of nerves, took it over unsuspectingly. Only Kurapika didn't drink it directly. Immediately after that, there was a chatter, and Yi didn't want to listen to it, so he withdrew his attention. After a while, accompanied by the sound of an alarm clock, a strange man in a suit appeared in front of many candidates. A man with light purple curly hair and curly beard, has the appearance of a gentleman. But the fact that he didn't have a long mouth made Yi feel a little surprised. Although it has been more than a year since I came to this world, I have seen all kinds of strange people, but it is the first time I have seen one without a long mouth. The newly appeared man in a suit looked at the watch in his hand. The registration period is now officially over. Then he made a solemn announcement. The hunter test will officially start now. Most of the candidates became nervous. Please come with me. After the man in the suit finished speaking, he turned around and took the lead. Before you start, you still need to make sure. Because the hunter's test is very difficult, as long as you lack luck and courage, you may be injured or even killed. Hearing this, Yi glanced at Shiba next to him. In the original work, compared to other candidates, Shiba lacked a little luck. But now even the number plate has changed, presumably the tragedy in the original book will not happen in this life. Yi thought so. If so, if you want to continue participating in the hunter test, come with me. With the last sentence of the man in the suit, everyone followed in his footsteps and walked forward. No one has opted out. Just walking, everyone's pace gradually became faster, and at the end they even started to run. It was at this moment that the man in the suit began to introduce himself. I'm so sorry to tell you so late, I'm Sats who was in charge of the first test. Now, let me lead everyone to the second test venue. As Sats's walking speed increased, some people gradually began to fall behind. Before you know it, a few hours have passed. The number of people who can continue to run is almost half of the previous one. But for Yi and Shiba, this level is easy. This test can not only test the test taker's endurance, but also test the test taker's will. The hunter test, I thought it was too simple before. Seeing the gradually decreasing number of candidates beside him, Shiba became more and more yearning for the group of hunters. I guess it will take a few hours to run. It's quite boring for a short time. Compared with Shiba on the side, Yi felt extremely bored. It's just running after all. Yi, you know, the examiner on the train, the ability he uses. Suddenly, Shiba, who was sighing on the side, suddenly asked Yi. The robbers who smoked in the 14 cars at the same time. This is not at all attainable by ordinary training, or by coincidence. Unless it is the special ability of that examiner. She wanted to ask about this for a long time, but seeing that Yi didn't take the initiative to tell her thoughts, she kept pressing it in her heart. But at this moment, she really couldn't bear it any longer. Although the answer is right beside me, but I have to endure it all the time, this feeling is really difficult to describe in words. Well, Tilda, I thought you would keep going, but I didn't expect you to endure it so quickly. Pressing the top hat on his head, Yi teased with wicked interest. Obviously, Shiba's curiosity knows the bottom line. You're lucky, I was going to wait for the fourth test to tell you. Yi Yi, who was extremely boring, didn't mind telling her Nyan's existence in advance. Really? The excited Shiba completely ignored Yi Yi's so-called fourth experiment. This ability is not something everyone can know. Looking around the candidates around, Yi Yi didn't reveal any plans to them. Although killing a psychic can reap % unlocking progress. But not everyone has the qualifications to become a psychic. Seeing Yi Yi's cautious appearance, Shiba subconsciously leaned over. The ability used by that examiner is called Mind, which is an ability to freely manipulate the life energy emanating from the body. And Nyan, because everyone's aptitude, character and growth environment are different, they belong to different departments. Yi Yi explained it again and again, while running in the footsteps of Sats. All in all, it's just a superpower. After becoming a professional hunter, the association will send a special teacher to teach new hunters to learn this ability. Having said that, he did not continue to speak. Of course, if you can find someone yourself to teach you the ability to read, you can learn this ability in advance. Just these are enough for her to absorb. Of course, the most important thing is that Yi Yi faintly felt a ray of light. The end of the tunnel has arrived. Halfway through listening, Shiba, who wanted to continue listening, watched Yi Yi run away in disbelief. After arousing my curiosity, I just ran away, I remember. Look at the figure that gradually fades away. Shiba, who is sulking, subconsciously poked 2 small powder dumplings on both sides of his cheeks. It's a pity that Yi Yi couldn't see this picture at all. The second is offered. Chapter 26_. Run for hours. A beam of light came out from the direction that Sats was walking. With the continuous climb up the steps, the candidate's hope also arises spontaneously. 1, 2. The 2 figures suddenly surpassed all the candidates present and ran fast towards the exit. Accompanied by the laughter that is characteristic of being a child. The candidates who were left behind, looking at the 2 people who were still so physically energetic, sighed at their amazing physical strength. In this regard, Yi Yi said that it has nothing to do with himself. Leisurely ran to the stairs. Behind him was a depressed Shiba. After everyone climbed the steps and came out of the tunnel, Sats looked at the watch in his hand. Time is up. As soon as the voice fell, the gate behind him slowly fell. A candidate who ran at the end, struggled to keep up with everyone, and finally made it to the finish line. When I saw the light, I subconsciously slowed down. And this is also the reason why he missed the hunter exam. Wait for me. Seeing the gate fall, a bad premonition emerges. But it's too late. The gate just closed as he struggled to climb to the entrance. The candidates who came out earlier saw this and subconsciously laughed. Obviously persisted until the end, but chose to relax at the most critical moment. It's really pitiful. At this moment, the number of candidates who successfully escaped from the tunnel is less than 1/3 of the original. Only the first half of the first test has wiped out so many candidates. Let Liu Li and others who participated in the hunter test for the first time feel what it means to be severe and cruel. In the distance, Xiaoji and Qiu looked like they were on a relaxed outing, which stimulated Liu Li's heart even more. At this moment, Liu Li thought about whether he could successfully pass all the tests. The people who came to participate in the hunter test are all monsters, and I am among these monsters, whether I can succeed in the license. Kurapika on the side, seeing that Liu Li was so low, guessed what he was thinking. It's just that outsiders can't interfere with this kind of thing. You can only get through this with your own firm will. Yi Yi in the distance looked at all this thoughtfully. Hunter world is not a rigid world driven by the so-called plot of previous lives. Everyone has a different personality and past. Although in the general direction, the process is still driven by the plot. But in the details, the choice of the characters themselves will also change the future development. Like this moment. Under the comparison of Xiaoji and others, Leo Lee began to question himself. This is what an ordinary person should think when facing many monsters. That guy is lying. A man, dragging his wounded body, grabbed a monkey and walked away. The face was full of wounds, and blood was flowing outwards. He's not an examiner at all. I'm the real examiner. After saying that, he threw the monkey in his hand to the ground. Hearing the words of the man who suddenly appeared, the candidates couldn't help but begin to doubt. After all, Sasna's pace is different from ordinary people, and it is easy to cause speculation. The monkey that was thrown to the ground further aggravated everyone's doubts. At this moment, the monkey, which seemed to be dead, had the exact same appearance as the examiner Satsu. If it wasn't for Sachi's lack of a mouth, everyone could think that the two were brothers. See, the candidates seemed to believe their own words. The man began to explain to everyone. This guy is a human-faced ape living in the Saimiro wetland, and he can transform into a human. Using rhetoric to deceive humans, that guy is also an accomplice of the human-faced ape. They want to wipe out you candidates and turn them into their own rations. The man's explanation seems to be well-founded. The candidate, who was already full of doubts about SATs, now completely believed what the man said. Yi looked around. It turns out that not everyone believes what a man says. At the very least, the 10 candidates from Kurapika, Xiaoji, and Chichi-10, Liangao, 6th Vanadium series did not believe what this man said. Yi, who had watched the original plot, found that what these candidates had in common was that they all persisted until the 4th hunter test. Sure enough, a person's potential as a hunter can be detected at the outset. Secretly pressing the top hat down, Yi came to a conclusion. This man is fake, I guessed it right, Yi. See Yi looking around at what? Shiba initiated an inquiry, but although it was an inquiry, his tone was extremely firm. Don't worry about it, it's just a farce, a beast after all. Under Yi's perception, this man's breath was full of greed and desire. As a person with the ability to read, he must have known that Hisoka, Sats, Ilmi and others knew that he was pretending. Just didn't reveal it. Especially Hisoka, the moment this man appeared, his breath was mixed with murderous aura. After spending a week in a boring underground tunnel, I guess I can't hold back. It doesn't matter, hang up high. Yi was teasing someone in his heart at this moment. The other side. The man began to cry with the candidates that his license was cheated out, and he was seriously injured because of it. But before he could finish his words, he suddenly let out a scream. Several playing cards suddenly appeared on his face. His vitality disappeared completely, and he fell powerlessly behind him. Hisoka's hand completely shocked passers-by. The next moment, someone found out. Standing quietly on the side, like SATs watching a play, he also held a few cards in his hand. Only then did someone realize that Hisoka's move just now was testing both sides. But whether this is a test or a provocation, only a few people present knew. Hisoka began to explain, and Sats also issued a warning. It's not an example, it's just that in the next exam, no matter what the reason is, as long as you attack me, I will regard it as a disobedience to the examiner and will disqualify you. After that, he threw away his poker. Turn around and lead the remaining candidates to continue to the next test room. Okay, time to go, to the second test site. 3 more offer. Ask for flowers, collections, and evaluation tickets. Chapter 27_. To go to the second venue, you need to go through the Mile Wetland. For those who have never been here, it is a daydream. But these candidates are undoubtedly lucky to have Sats to lead them forward. Although most of the candidates still run in the wrong direction because of the fog, and because of the birds learning to speak Sachi, they also run in the wrong direction. But compared to those candidates who lost their lives in the belly of the beast because they accidentally entered the trap, they were already very lucky. There are fewer and fewer candidates running with them. Shiba followed Yi, not afraid of losing his way. It doesn't matter, for us, those are competitors, and the smaller the number, the better it is for us. Although Yi responded like this, he never paid attention to these ordinary candidates. The only ones who are afraid are Haiso and Ilmi. Just a little doubt, when did the fourth candidate who mastered the mind appear in the hunter test? In the original work, only 2 candidates, Siso and Ilmi, mastered the mind. Even if there is an extra knight in this experiment, logically speaking, it is only 3 people mastering the mind. But the mysterious fourth man in the cape made Yi secretly vigilant. Perhaps this person came to me specifically. Looking back at the appearance of Stanley, Yi pair didn't know about this mysterious fourth minder. But from the glances he occasionally looked at him, there were some guesses. You told me when you were in the tunnel before, if I can find the ability person in advance, I can learn this ability in advance, I remember correctly. Shiba didn't notice Yi's distraction, and asked Yi seriously. Yes, that's what I told you at the time. For Shiba's question at the moment, Yi answered casually. By the way, with a hand knife, he decapitated the beast that suddenly appeared on the side. Along the way, these beasts, after smelling the breath of human beings, constantly attacked the large army to obtain food and satisfy their hunger. On the way to the second test venue with Satis, many candidates have already lost their lives. Since you can tell me this and perceive the abilities of the examiner on the train, obviously, you are also a so-called ability person, am I right? Bang! A gray wolf who wanted to sneak attack was headshot by Shiba with a pistol. He continued to look at Yi without looking back. For Shiba's question, Yi quickly told her the answer. Yes, I can perceive the examiner's ability and tell you so much information, which naturally means that I also have the ability to read. When he said this, Yi seemed to feel something vaguely. Then why didn't you tell me directly before, and asked me to find the capable person myself? Shiba stared at Yi's face, trying to see what he was thinking. Since Yi has the ability to read, why does she have to find someone with the ability to read and teach her how to read? After all, it's also very interesting to see your dumb and ignorant appearance. Hearing Shiba's doubts, Yi couldn't help laughing out loud. I don't know how long it's been, joking with others like this. It seems that since he came to this world, he has been busy all the time, and he has never had a good time to relax. For a year, he has been accompanied by the cold task and several companions who are also killers. Perhaps the two have a good relationship, or they have become accustomed to each other's existence in the past few days. Or, the real world of hunters is treated as a real world. All in all, Yi was in front of Shiba. Although they still seem icy cold most of the time, they can occasionally joke with each other. If Yunji, who was far away in the sky arena, saw this scene, he would probably feel very relieved. Yi's laughter angered Shiba next to him. His face was flushed. But whether she is angry or shy, only she knows. Of course, a joke is a joke. Yi will not forget that he is still in the hunter test. The necessary vigilance still exists. Judging by Reiatsu, there was a huge presence 10 meters in front of the two of them. Although I don't know what kind of beast it is still too late to avoid it in advance. He stretched out his hand and grabbed Shiba, who is still in shame and anger. With one jump, he jumped to a height of more than 10 meters in the air, easily crossing the existence of this huge breath. I haven't reacted yet, why did I come to the air? Shiba saw a huge mouth below and closed it suddenly. Swallow a large piece of soil and the candidates standing on the soil into the stomach. Although you don't want to pay attention to your existence, you seem to treat me as food just now. Several tossed in the air, and fell to the ground safely. A red fire bomb suddenly shot out from Yi's palm aimed at the ground. The 31. Red cannon. The voice returned to icy cold again. No singing. Dealing with a mere beast is not enough to sing. Accompanied by a rumbling sound. A huge crater suddenly exploded on the ground, and the soil splashed everywhere. Among them is a green giant frog that has lost its life. Okay, let's move on. Ahead seems to be the location of the second test. He glanced at the ground, not satisfied with this attack. Compared to Bailey, Kai artillery's attack speed is not that fast. The lethality is not as strong as White Thunder at all. The only advantage seemed to be the range of that attack. When attacking the target, it will produce an explosion effect, and the flames splashing around will also have a burning effect. His casual strike made his companions stare blankly. Is this the power of reading? I've been listening to Yi Yi's introduction, but I haven't had a chance to see the true face of Shanyan. This time, I finally felt the existence of mind. Ignoring the contemplative teammate, Yaiki continued to hold her hand and ran forward. Shiba seemed to be still thinking about something, but he didn't notice the current state of the two at all. 10 minutes later. Through a jungle. The two came to the site of the second test. Before the two of them, dozens of people had come here first. Among them, there are two existences who master the energy of mind. Ilmi, and the unnamed man in the cape. 4 more offer. The dormitory is being disinfected today, so the update time has been delayed until now. The author is very sorry here. Chapter 28_. The number of candidates who rushed to the second examination room is increasing. Hisoka, Bakur, Hanzo, Pensy and so on. The Qigong class looked up, as if looking for something. But after a while, he lowered his head in a dull manner. The player named Jitalagu silently took all this into his eyes. Half an hour has passed. Finally, under a burst of inexplicable noises, Sats looked at his watch, ready to announce the end of the first trial. The two figures rushed towards here quickly, and the strange breath surged up in an instant. Okay, I'm here to congratulate you all again. Sats stepped aside, looked around the candidates, and started to announce with his hands behind his back. All the candidates here now have passed the first test. I hope everyone can pass the test bravely in the second test. I wish everyone a long and prosperous martial arts. After saying that, SATs turned and left without hesitation. Just a few steps into the forest, he stopped, turned and walked towards the second test venue again. Under a tall tree, he jumped up and jumped onto its branches. Exclamation. The first exam took a total of people. The number of people who passed was 148, which was a bit unexpected. But it's a pity that there are so many people, because the examiners in the second test are those two. Under the nitpicking of these two gourmet hunters, there are probably only a few dozen people who can pass the test. But I'm a little curious about the test of these two gourmet hunters. Well, it's decided, let's just watch the liveliness and go. Another half hour passed. It's 12 o'clock. The door of the building in front of everyone slowly opened inward. The interior of this building is unveiled at this moment. The two figures were reflected in the night's eyes. Menchi, Buhara. Menchi, with a hot body, attracts the attention of many candidates. It's a pink-haired girl wearing hot pants and a fishnet outfit. At this time, he was leaning on a sofa, his legs were folded together, and his face was comfortable. Bahara, with a fat body, also attracted everyone's attention. The huge body also represents his superhuman strength. Although he looked silly at this time, his ability to act as an examiner for the hunter test should not be underestimated. The grunting sound from his stomach also seemed to represent his current state, hunger. The female examiner sitting on the sofa greeted all the candidates. Students, it's been a long wait. Then he turned around and asked the male examiner behind him. Bahara, how is it? Your stomach is already starving now, right? Due to the female examiner's inquiries, other candidates also learned the name of the male examiner. Bahara answered with his own stomach, only to hear a sound from his stomach. Galam tilde galam tilde. Buha rubbed his stomach and said to the beautiful woman. You heard it too, I'm starving. Female examiner nodding and turning around. I think everyone already knows that this is the venue for the second hunter test, and the two of us are the examiners for the second hunter test. I'm Menchi, and this guy is Buhala. Let me explain in advance that we are both gourmet hunters. Facing the food hunter mentioned by Menchi, Xiaoji expressed curiosity. What is a gourmet hunter? Hunting down gourmet hunters. The so-called gourmet hunters are hunters who pursue various ingredients and dishes around the world. The ingredients they seek are not as dangerous as some bounty hunters. Kurapika, in an understatement, introduced what a food hunter is. After listening to Hanzo in the crowd, he touched his bald head. The examiner is a food hunter, so, shouldn't the test questions in this test be related to food? The beauty smiled after listening. Yes, the content of the second experiment is to cook. The moment they heard this sentence, the candidates immediately began to riot. But Yi was not in a hurry. Bahara's test is to roast pig, this one is enough. Menchi's test is relatively difficult. After all, as for sushi, Yoichi just ate it, and didn't know how to make it. Of course, it doesn't matter whether you can make sushi or not. This test will be cancelled in the end because of the strict requirements of Menchi. So the gourmet test isn't difficult at all. The other side. My request is, I want to eat roast whole pig. After a brief riot, Bahara made his own test request, roasted whole pigs. As soon as the voice fell, the black pigs rushed towards the crowd. The weakness of this pig is the head. Shiba was about to hunt the horned mad pig, and Yi reminded him in a friendly way. The leaving figure paused for a moment, then continued to walk forward. The horned mad pig seems to be difficult to kill, but after mastering its weaknesses, it has become an extremely easy food to kill. Because of its rich taste and extremely low capture difficulty. The pigs of this breed have been hunted and killed in the outside world. Now only the Shimela wetland is left, and there are still a small number of horned wild pigs. After an hour, the candidates who survived from the mouth of the horny mad pig returned with their own roasted whole pigs. Night is no exception. Although Menchi's test was ultimately invalid, the Bahara level had to be completed first. Candidates who are eliminated at this level will not be able to participate in the subsequent makeup examinations. Delicious, so delicious, so delicious. Quote. 71 roasted whole pigs, all swallowed in the belly under the stormy inhalation of Bahara. In the first half of the second test of the hunter test, 71 people passed the customs. The simplest test is passed here. Looking at the impatient Dorchi next to Buhara, Yi knew that disaster was imminent. 2 hours later. Sorry, I'm full. Menchi put down his chopsticks and announced to the long queue of candidates in front of him. This test, the number of qualified people, 0. Candidates who worked hard for a long time, but failed to pass the exam, instantly exploded in their minds. However, compared to the furious candidates, Yi's side was quite peaceful. Pour a cup of tea and watch the play quietly. Anyway, you can't make qualified sushi, so it's better to watch a movie to pass the time. Shiba originally planned to make sushi, but looking at Yi's relaxed appearance, for some reason he chose the same way. The two were in the corner of the venue, watching the play quietly. Chapter 29 _ As the conflict escalates. A wrestler named Takudo attacked Menchi and Bala. SATs, who was hiding outside to watch the play, couldn't continue to stay out of it like this. Came forward to stop the conflict. Then, an airship appeared over the examination room. The old man in clogs jumped directly from the airship. Surprised to a group of students. However, Yi noticed that the moment Nitro landed, a thought rushed out of his feet. Offset the momentary pressure. That's why he was able to land on the ground unharmed. As expected of a person who has lived for so long with the ability of thinking, the control of thinking is simply not comparable to that of ordinary people. Nitro's hand, although Yi can understand its principle, but it may not be able to reproduce it perfectly. Until the use of mindfulness is completely turned into instinct, he cannot do it for the time being. But if you use Reiatsu, you can fly freely in the sky and fall from a high altitude without being hurt, which is naturally a breeze. This is also something that the vast majority of people with the ability to think cannot do. It can be said that chanting and spiritual pressure each have their own advantages. President. The moment Menchi saw Nitro, he saluted him honestly. It's been a long time since I greeted you, President Nitro. As the president of the Hunter Guild, Nitro's age is unknown. I know is that he has a record of fighting with his grandfather, Maha Dadike. As the founder of Xinyuan Liuquan, he can be said to be the grandfather of Yi Yi. In the original work, when the Ant King was defeated, his strength was only half of his heyday due to his advanced age. He tried his best to do one-on-one with the Ant King, but was still interrupted by the Ant King on his left hand and right foot. In the end, he stopped his heartbeat, met the starting conditions of poor man's rose, and died with the Ant King. It can be said that he sacrificed his life for the sake of mankind. As the strongest human being in the past, the intensity of the breath on his body surprised Yi Yi. Only half the strength of the heyday, so exaggerated, if it is the heyday of Nitro, what a terrifying monster. At this moment, Yi Yi felt his own insignificance. Interesting, that's what I'm trying to do. Compared to those pioneers, the descendants of Yi Yi are undoubtedly very lucky. Because someone has already figured out the way in advance, what they need to do is to avoid the mistakes of their predecessors and walk on the right path. When Yi Yi came back to his senses, a new makeup test plan had appeared. Everyone is preparing to take the airship when Nitro came to the re-exam location. Hey Yaiki-chan here, come here. Unexpectedly, Nitro, who was talking to Menchi and others, turned around and called Yi Yi. This special care made all candidates turn their attention to Yi Yi. The appearance of drinking tea leisurely at night was also discovered by everyone. Damn, although I don't know who this bastard is, he was drinking tea leisurely there when we were working hard for the test. Damn, I'm so envious. Hanzo's envious expression seemed to represent the other candidates as well. However, there are still some candidates who seem to be annoyed that Yi Yi is so leisurely. Damn, that guy treats me like a monkey, can't forgive me. Takudo thought of his embarrassed appearance just now, being seen by everyone. Originally, I was holding my stomach full of fire, and at the moment I saw Yi Yi, it seemed that there was a way to vent. But at the moment, he is still worried about the relationship between Yi Yi and the president, and he just mumbled. But no one but himself knows what his real thoughts are. Night 1. Shiba on the side looked at Yi Yi worriedly. She didn't know the relationship between Yi Yi and the president, and subconsciously became worried. Cut, this bad old man is very bad. I secretly vomited in my heart. Judging from the playfulness in Nitro's eyes, it was obvious that he was deliberately teasing Yaiki. It's no big deal, you get on the airship first, and I'll find you later. After comforting the companion beside him, Yi Yi turned around and walked towards Nitro. He didn't realize at all that his relationship with Shiba seemed to be more than just a simple partner. Yohu ho, you are what Xiaoyungu said Yi Yi, you are indeed a malleable talent. Nianqi runs smoothly, like a flowing river. Although the cultivation time is just over a month, the mastery of Nianqi is already a bit stronger than Menqi and the others. The killing intent on his body perfectly converges on himself, and his mastery of assassination skills should be no worse than those two boys who beat the enemy. Nitro looked up and down, and became more and more satisfied with Yi Yi. As the president of the Hunters Association, it's easy to know a person's information. Yi Yi put on a heart-wrenching posture, which was considered a salute. President. Although Yi Yi was displeased with Nitro's scrutiny, he tried his best to ignore it. The old man is really old. The younger generation is better than the next one. I'm afraid that after a few years of cultivation, they will be able to surpass the old man. It's really scary. Nitro's review surprised the people around Sachi, Menchi and Bala. Although there are new recruits in the Hunter Association every few years, only Yi is the one who gets such an evaluation from Nitro. The three of them looked at Yi subconsciously. However, who is this man? A big question mark appeared above the three of them. After the 2 exams, Yi has been adhering to the principle that the killer should not be exposed to the public eye. It came all the way. The 3 examiners had almost zero impression of Yi. As the examiner of the Hunter test, this is undoubtedly a very dereliction of duty. The 3 were immediately embarrassed. Ho tilde ho tilde ho tilde. Nitro laughed inexplicably again. Laughter interrupted the embarrassment of several examiners. Okay, you continue to participate in the experiment, remember to cheer up, Yi Zhang tilde. After seeing Yi's growth, Nitro sent him away with satisfaction. Cut. Angrily glanced. Yi silently walked towards Shiba. Although it was said that she was asked to board the airship in advance, she still chose to wait to board the airship with Yi. President, who was that kid just now? Seeing Yi leave, the 3 examiners looked at each other for a moment. Ask Nitro together. 2 more offer. There is no class this afternoon, no accident, you can update it at 5. Thanks for the big reward. Chapter 30_. Following Shiba boarded the airship, the candidate's eyes on Yi changed. Although everyone doesn't know Yi's identity, knowing him from Nitro is enough to express his specialness. Hey, Dongba, do you have any information on that person? I don't mind buying it with money if you have it. Some candidates know that Dongba God has participated in the Hunter test for many years, and has a lot of information on the candidates. They found Dongba and tried to get Yi's information. It's a pity that even Dongba doesn't know Yi's information. But this kid rolled his eyes and didn't know what to think. To the candidates who came to inquire about the news, secretly imparted their processed information. Dongba did not forget the killing intent that Yi Suo exuded when he entered the Hunter test venue. This kind of terrifying existence is not something he can casually provoke. The other side. Jia, don't approach that person just now. The feeling he gave me was very wrong. Seeing Yi boarded the airship, Qi Yan became cautious. When he didn't find Yi's existence, he was able to face the Hunter test with a playful attitude. But the moment he saw Yi with his own eyes, the cold hairs on his body seemed to burst, and he was vigilant against him. He had only experienced such a peculiar reaction from his eldest brother. He even suspected that this so-called Yi was what his elder brother pretended to be. In the previous 2 tests, he vaguely felt a familiar sight. This feeling is like his big brother looking at him. Yi and his big brother Ilmi. The same uncomfortable feeling, Tongyus like to hide in the dark, and the same cold and bone-chilling temperament. I just don't know when his eldest brother got involved with the Hunter Association. Hearing the announcement of Chi's pregnancy, Kurapika couldn't help but be vigilant. This man, I have no impression of him at all, it's like I've never seen him before. As an observant, he subconsciously collects information around him whenever he arrives in a new environment to ensure that he can face emergencies. But even so, he didn't have any memory of Yi. Xiaoji and Liu Li, you two pay attention, don't provoke him. Xiaoji and Liu Li nodded silently, indicating that they listened to their hearts. This man, who has been hiding in the dark since the first test, is obviously not something to be provoked. Since then, Yi has had an intersection with the protagonist group for the first time. Shiba was also extremely curious about the relationship between Yi and Nitro. Unfortunately, in the face of Shiba's curiosity, Yi used a sentence to surround her. President Nitro, that old man can be regarded as my master's master's master. 10 minutes later, the airship began to descend slowly, and finally stopped on the edge of a cliff. As the examiner, Menchi took the lead to get out of the airship. The candidates subconsciously followed Menchi out of the airship. When they came to the edge of the cliff, everyone began to wonder what was underneath. At this time, Men-chi introduced. "Don't worry, it's just a deep valley below." After saying that, he jumped into the river valley. Seeing this, Nitro began to explain to everyone that there was a bird named Grape Spider below. And this bird will hang its eggs on the edge of the cliff. After a while, Men-chi reappeared in front of everyone. However, unlike before the jump, she was holding an egg with many spots in her hand. "I advise you to be careful when you go down for a while. The water below the valley is very fast. If you fall down and rush to the seamouth of dozens of kilometers, there is basically no chance of life." Although it is an advice, it is more of a threat. Xiaoji, Qian Hanzo and others on the side were relieved to hear that the request was so simple this time. However, this is only relatively simple for these capable and confident people. After all, not everyone has the awareness that they can sacrifice their lives for it. 10 minutes later. Candidates are divided into 3 categories according to the results. 1. Jump off the cliff and successfully get the grape spider's egg. 2. Jump off the cliff, but fail to get the grape spider's egg. 3. Don't dare to jump off the cliff, you will be eliminated directly. Yi and Shiba naturally belong to the first category of candidates. Under the setting sun, the airship of the Hunter Association slowly rose into the air. The next destination is the address of the third test. Although Yi thought so. It's a pity. So, as a candidate, I'm about to take the third test, why should I play this boring ball game with you? Looking at Nitro who was constantly beating with a volleyball opposite, Yi felt deeply powerless. After boarding the airship, he and Shiba found a corner to meditate. Who knew that it was nearly dawn, but Nitro was caught by the old man, and he had to play a volleyball game with him. For this game, Yi naturally knew that it was Xiaoji and Qixingjiao who set up the boat. But it's almost dawn. The game is over, why did you call him here? But the old man said that if he didn't play games with him at night, it would cost him away. Make him simply unable to participate in the third trial. Under this unreasonable coercion, Yi had to succumb to Nitro's lewd power. Just grab 3 hours of volleyball now. The top of the airship was about to be removed, and the ball was still tightly held in Nitro's hands. Yi was able to experience Xiaoji, Chi Dumpling and said that the man's Nitro and Yi's scramble for the ball was not as simple as Xiaoji and the others. In order to prevent the volleyball from being snatched away, Nitro took the lead in using Nian like a rogue. There was no other way, Yi had no choice but to use Nianqi. After all, Nitro's volleyball covered with thoughts would become a murder weapon if Yi didn't use his thoughts to strengthen himself. This volleyball game has also become a test of Yi's strength. The offensive and defensive battle between you and me begins here. 3 hours of high-intensity use of mind power was not a difficult problem for Yi. But it depends on the object. In the face of Nitro's 3-hour high-intensity offense and defense, that is, he did not use his full strength. Otherwise, Yi might not be able to hold on for half an hour. In the end, the Bean Noodles man came to urge him, and Nitro let the night away. 3 more offer. Ask for flowers, ask for reviews. Chapter 31-. The sky is completely bright. A tall tower appeared in front of the airship. Judging from the moving direction of the airship, its next destination is likely to be in the tower. Many candidates woke up from their sleep long ago, and after seeing this tower, they all leaned over to the airship's window to look at it. If it is really the third test site, it is also extremely important to obtain information in advance. Destroy the tower, a prison that holds many criminals. It is managed by Warden Lieber. After a while, the airship slowly landed. When all the candidates got off the airship, the Bean Noodles man stepped forward to introduce them to everyone. This is the top of the slump tower and the venue for the third test. The meatball-like right hand popped out a finger. The rules are also very simple. As long as everyone can reach the ground alive, the time limit is 72 hours. The third test, the official start. After the announcement, the Bean Noodles man took the airship and left. As Nitro's help, the official documents he usually has to deal with are not accessible to ordinary people. When I came out, I didn't know how many documents were backlogged. As the Bean Noodles man left, everyone began to observe at the top of the tower. Time goes by. The number of candidates still at the top of the tower is also decreasing. In the end, only Yi and Shiba were left to stay here. Yi and Nitro have been in a state of meditation since the end of their practice. Keep recalling the process of the two fighting in your mind. Use this to find out details that you haven't noticed in your usual battles. Of course, most of them rely on absolute to quickly restore their own thoughts. Shiba, who was on the side, had already found the secret cell, but he was worried about Yi's situation, so he never left, waiting here silently. I was worried that I would not be able to complete the third test. But seeing Yi, anxiety disappeared without a trace. Shiba subconsciously thought that even if he fell behind the candidates, this third trial would not be difficult for Yi. In a dark room, the examiner of this test, Lieber, looked at the two people on the monitor and wondered what they were thinking. Director, those two candidates have not entered the tower. They do not want to participate in the third test, should they be disqualified. Behind Lieber stood two prisoners in prison uniforms. It is one-sided that Lieber is dissatisfied with the two. A method that seems to fulfill Lieber's ideas. But, is Lieber really dissatisfied with Yi and Shiba? Bastard, what do I want to do and need your guidance? Glance back. Murderous aura shot towards the two of them instantly. To Lieber, they were nothing more than a tool to help him carry snacks. In the basement tower, the most notable thing is prisoners. The two prisoners begged for mercy. After a while, replace the hidden cells just found by candidate number 67. No, replace the remaining hidden cells with the most discerning path. Lieber's voice came out again. It seemed that he had given up on the matter just now, which made the two prisoners breathe a sigh of relief. Hurry up and complete the task assigned by Lieber. Feeling the departure of the two breaths beside him, Lieber returned his attention to the monitor in front of him. Looking at the two figures on the monitor, Lieber recalled the gossip from the association. President Nitro deliberately slipped out to play again because of the second experiment. In the monthly meeting, because of the absence of the chairman, Pariston took the handle and used the topic to play. In this hunter test, it seems that there are people who have a heart and soul to join, and the president also specially appointed him for a few hours. Compared with the first two insignificant news, the third news was the one that attracted Lieber the most. Not to mention whether the news is true or false. But thinking of the president's terrifying strength, he can last for a few hours under his hands. This alone, Lieber said he couldn't do it. So for this news, Lieber is biased to be false. But the moment the airship stopped at the basement tower, he felt a sense of constant climbing. Although the level was weak at the beginning, after several hours of continuous climbing, he easily surpassed him. Only then did Lieber understand that the master of this thought was recovering his own energy. That's why it has such a terrifying speed of climb. This reminded him of the message he denied not long ago. When all the candidates entered the basement tower, only Yi and Shiba were left. Lieber finally found the owner of the breath, Yiki. The clothes on his body were messy, as if he had just had a confrontation with someone. Thinking of the gossip, several concerns flashed in Lieber's heart. In the end, Lieber chose to bet. Perhaps a hunter-examiner betting on candidates is an incredible thing. But for Lieber, this is just something that can be done easily, so why not do it? Regardless of whether Yi accepts this situation or not, he is not at a loss. It's just a matter of time left and right. Just like his previous friend, in order to get revenge, he specially asked him to put Hisoka into the channel where his friend was. After his thoughts were mastered, Lieber re-observed the attention of the other candidates. I don't know how long time has passed. The sun is starting to get hot. Yi Yi finally got out of the state of meditation. Before he could look at Shiba next to him, Yi Yi immediately called out the system panel. System panel. Host, Night 1. World, Full-time Hunter. Number of inheritances, 1. Inherited figure, Ichimaru Jin. Unlock progress, 23%. Zanpakuto, Spear First Solution. Spiritual Pressure, 100. Ability Mastery, Shunpo, Beginner Ghost Way, Beginner Swordsmanship, Reiatsu Perception Beginner. The next ability to unlock, need to unlock the progress 25%. When leaving the Sky Arena, Yi Yi's inheritance unlock progress has reached 13%. Exams these days. Yi Yi secretly dealt with some candidates who were on the commission list, and some beasts in the Los Merlot wetlands. Brings his unlock progress to 18%. This progress has been considered very rapid. But he didn't expect that a bigger surprise came to him. After finishing the dual training with Nitro, the unlocking progress has been increasing. When he finished his meditation, the unlocking progress also reached 23%. Directly increased the unlock progress by 5%. 4 more offer. PS will update a chapter later, the time is uncertain, but it will definitely be updated. Ask for flowers, ask for evaluation tickets. Chapter 32_. Although the practice with Nitro was not Yi Yi's original intention. But the benefits generated by it were unexpected for Yi Yi. First of all, during the battle, I found some habitual mistakes of myself. The second is to gain the experience of fighting against psychics. This experience is many times stronger than the parallel imports of Sky Arena. Finally, it is the exaggerated inheritance unlocking progress. It can be said that the training with Nitro this time, abruptly boosted Yi Yi's strength improvement progress by a lot. At this moment, Yi Yi understood the meaning of Nitro looking for him to play games. Nominally, it is playing games to pass the time, but in fact it is secretly teaching and promoting Yi Yi. It can be said that under the identity of the Hunter Association president and candidates, it can be done to the greatest extent. In duo, it is estimated that he will be secretly slandered. Pariston will not let go of all opportunities. Exit from the system panel. Yi Yi felt a worried gaze. Don't worry, I just learned something about the practice of mindfulness. For the girl in front of me. Her persistent attitude really touched Yi Yi. But his character, really can't say anything to thank. Only in the mind secretly planning. For the next exam, help her open her sperm hole. Hearing Yi Yi's explanation, Shiba finally breathed a sigh of relief. An understatement for Yi Yi. After getting along for a few days, they all know each other's character, so naturally they don't care. I have already found 2 secret passages, just waiting for you to recover. Each hand points to 2 floors. Shiba told Yi Yi about his discovery. Shiba, who looked like he was asking for credit. Yi Yi gave up the idea of flying her down directly. The 2 just took a step. The floor, which was not a dark grid before, collapsed in an instant. Shiba fell into it so unprepared. Yi Yi didn't have time to think, and his body stepped back. Bang dang tilde. With the sound of the dark grid, Yi Yi also disappeared into the dark grid. The other side. Lieber looked at the 2 who disappeared in place with a smile on his face. You 2, you've done a good job, and your sentence will be reduced by 5 years. The joy of the 2 prisoners behind them could not be concealed. If it weren't for the moody warden in front of him, he would have hugged and cheered. For 2 people who have been sentenced to less than 10 years in prison, 5-year commutation is enough to cheer. The sight returned. Even though he fell into the basement tower because he stepped on the dark grid, Yi Yi was very calm. Adjust your posture in the air and land gently on the ground. Is it, Yi Yi? In the dark environment, a female voice suddenly came out. Ah, it's me. I suddenly stepped on the dark grid and fell. As the night opened, the lights on the side gradually turned on. Shiba's figure emerged from it. Yi was not surprised by this. The moment she fell into the basement tower, Yi had already sensed her breath. With this ability, the perception of breath is not particularly strong. As long as you suppress your own breath, or use absolute, you will basically be unable to perceive it. But Reiatsu perception is different. This is the ability to act directly on one's soul. Perceive the surrounding environment through the fluctuation of the soul. Possessing both at the same time, Yi's perception ability has already surpassed most of the human beings in this world. I didn't expect the separation and reunion to be so sudden. Shiba couldn't understand what happened to the two of them just now. After all, she was able to figure out the surrounding situation in advance before she found the two hidden spaces. But in this state, she doesn't know what to say. It should be the examiner. Seeing that we have not entered the basement tower, he helped us open the nearby secret cell. Yi was not familiar with Lieber, the examiner this time. But he also knew that he was not an unreliable person. This conclusion can be drawn from the fact that Xiaoji and others chose to break through the wall to enter another passage, and he did not disqualify. Shiba does not agree with this statement, but the current situation cannot be explained by other circumstances. In the end, still reluctantly agree. Welcome to the path of discrimination. There are many different paths preset in this basement tower. Lieber's voice came from a loudspeaker on the side. The path of identification is the most time-consuming path among all paths. Of course, the corresponding customs clearance difficulty is the path with the lowest among all paths. There are still 68 hours left. I wish you two can successfully pass the customs before the time runs out. After a brief explanation, the sound disappeared again. A door also opened. Yi and Shiba looked at each other. At the same time walked towards the door. They have already come here, so naturally they need to keep going. However, is this test serious? Looking at the big screen erected in front of the two of them, Yi didn't know how to understand Lieber's thoughts. Two very similar pictures, and you need to find the difference in one of the pictures. Seeing the two enter the room, Lieber's voice appeared again and began to explain. The path of discrimination, there are 5 levels in total. And the number of different photos in each level will change according to the number of levels. For example, the difference in the first level is only 1 point, the difference in the second level is only 2 points, and so on. Lieber's explanation made Yi seem to recall the past. In the world he used to be in, there was a little game called Find the Difference. This game, and this test in front of me. It seems, probably, is exactly the same. So, like this. Before Lieber finished explaining, Yi had already walked to the image and used the red pen on the side to circle an area. Ding! With a light sound, the iron gate to the next level was successfully opened. Quote. Lieber in front of the monitor didn't know how to express his inner feelings. 5 more offer. Thank you boss. 10,000 flowers. Thank you boss. It was the first time I saw so many flowers, and it was a little flirtatious. Chapter 33_. After an hour. Along with Shiba, another red circle was drawn. The 4th level was successfully passed. Because the game was too boring, it was handed over to Shiba, who was eager to try. Lieber in front of the screen subconsciously bit the chocolate bar in his mouth. The path of identification, although it is the easiest path in this tower, the so-called simplicity only means that the candidates will not be injured. It is not the first time that the squatting tower has been used as a test site for the hunter test. There are people who have walked the road of discrimination. The candidates who took the shortest time spent more than 30 hours to pass this road. Yi and Shiba had already cleared the first 4 levels in just 1 hour. Most of the time is still spent on getting to the next level. Director, they are about to arrive in the lounge. Is the lounge still open? In the past, the examinees of this level, after passing a few levels, would suffer from excessive mental exhaustion, which would affect the subsequent exams. Therefore, compared with other roads, the road of discrimination has an extra lounge for candidates to rest for a while. The two prisoners behind Lieber looked at the director, who was obviously in a bad mood, and seemed to have no confidence in their words. He closed his eyes and thought for a while, and finally waved his hand helplessly. Let's keep it open. As for whether they choose to rest in the lounge, it has nothing to do with us. After Lieber finished speaking, he turned the control monitor to show the situation of other candidates. Now, he urgently needs to see the distressed appearance of other candidates, in order to ease the imbalance in his heart. The other side. The two people who were walking in the passage of the squatting tower came to a small lounge at this moment. But neither of them disliked it. Judging by the time on the wall, we have 67 hours left, during which we will take another break. What do you think? Look at the time. Shiba asked Yi for his opinion. You make up your own mind. After seeing the first 4 levels, the knight has no hope for the 5th level behind. I still don't know what kind of state we are in when we reach the bottom floor, and we don't know if we can have a good rest. Now that we have such a lounge, we can have a good rest here. Looking around for a week, Shiba expressed that he was very satisfied with this lounge. Although there is only one bed, but food, sofa, TV, bathroom, water heater and so on have everything. He even put a lot of clothes on the side that can be used for washing. The 2-day hunter test, although the time has passed, is not long. But running in the tunnel and in the Shimela wetland also sweated and got a lot of dust. Although Shiba has a cold personality, she is also a girl and naturally likes to be clean. Yesterday on the airship, although I found the washroom, I simply wiped the dirt off my body. But it can't compare to taking a shower. Eat first, then you go to wash up, and when you're done washing up, I'll be there. It doesn't matter to these at night. The fight with Nitro the night before had left him physically and mentally exhausted. In such a safe environment, it is a good choice to take a nap after a long absence. For the next 60 hours, the two tried their best to restore their state. Until the last hour left, the two walked out of the lounge. After simply passing the last level, the two successfully reached the bottom of the tower. Click tilde. The mechanical door slowly rose upwards. Yi and Shiba walked out of it neatly. Look around for a week. There were more than 20 candidates, and they arrived at the finish line ahead of schedule. But what surprised Yi was that the wrestler named Takudo was among them. Am I remembering wrong? In Yiki's memory, Takudo seemed to be eliminated in the second food test. However, Yi's memory of the full-time hunter world is not very clear. Just remember some of the more important episodes. Therefore, for the emergence of to-do, Yi just suspected that he remembered it wrong. Half an hour later, the exam is about to end. At the bottom of the quiet tower, there was a sudden sound of rolling wheels. Then, a mechanical door slowly rose. Several figures rushed out from the simple carts transformed from skateboards and wooden boards. Xiaoji, Chichi 15. Lao Pickup, Leo Li and Dongba. Time up. With the sound of a mechanical sound, the door to the outside world slowly rose. So far, in the third test, 33 people have successfully cleared the customs. Lieber went from the monitoring room to the front of all the exams. All candidates, congratulations on your successful escape from the fallen tower. Start by introducing yourself. I'm the wanted bonus hunter and director of the prison, Lieber. After introducing himself, he snapped his fingers behind him. Now I want to invite all the candidates to board this airship with me and go to the next test location. An airship slowly rose from behind Lieber with great respect. All the students were amazed. All the candidates gathered together and lined up to take the airship in turn. The airship slowly rose into the air and left the lowly trapped tower where the candidates had stayed for 3 days. Go to the next test location. Hey Yi, I remember that you seem to have said that you would tell me more about chanting in the 4th trial, I remember correctly. Looking at the lowly trapped tower below, which was slowly getting smaller and disappeared, Shiba's mood was also changing. Finally, still couldn't help but ask Yi Yi next to him. As long as people are free, they will think about something that happened before. After staying in the lounge for so long, Shiba recalled what Yi Yi had said. He was still in the third trial before, so he suppressed his curiosity and didn't ask. Facing Shiba's inquiry, Yi Yi nodded slightly. Helping Shiba open his sperm hole was his long-planned plan. Before arriving at the fourth test venue, I will explain the basics of reading to you. His voice was icy cold, like a biting 10,000 years of ice. But for a person who yearns for strength, it is like the sound of heaven. Chapter 34_. The next day. Airship lands on an island. Lieber came out of the room inside the airship and began to introduce to the candidates in front of him. This is the fourth venue of the Hunter test, Alert Island. And I am honored to continue to be in charge of invigilating the fourth Hunter test. Lieber habitually raised his hand and snapped his fingers. The sound of the wheel turning. Everyone looked and saw a female staff member pushing a car over. I don't know if it's an illusion. Yi Yi felt that she looked very similar to the elevator lady from the Sky Arena. On the cart is a box that resembles a raffle box. Li Bo smiled gloomily at the students. I want to invite all candidates to come up and draw a lottery. Xiaoji was a little curious about the lottery in Lieber's mouth. Drawing lots. What's this for? Some other candidates also expressed doubts about Lieber's behavior this time. Seeing everyone's reaction, Lieber was very satisfied. Actually, I've put as many cards as you have in this box. Now, please come forward and draw a sign in the order of escaping from the base trap tower. After Lieber finished speaking, he looked at the staff on the side and motioned her to do the next work. Upon seeing this, the staff stepped forward to continue the next work. Then, please Mr. Hisoka first. Facing the smiling staff, Hisoka's expression was as cold as ever. He reached out and touched a card in the box. Seeing this, all the candidates prayed in their hearts that they were not the target of this killer. Immediately after that was Jitaraku Ilmi, who was just like Hisoka, took a card and left. Next, Mr. Hanzo. Having learned from the first two, Hanzo took the card and gave way to the next candidate. Gradually, basically all the candidates got a card. Number 26. Ms. Shiba. The staff shouted Shiba's name. Shiba took a few steps forward, reached out and picked up the card. Number 27. Mr. Yoichi. Yi Yi was not interested in who his target was. I touched a number. No, it seems to be one of the three brothers. Number 28. Mr. Xiaoji. Then Xiaoji stepped forward to draw cards. 5 minutes later, Lieber glanced at the empty box and continued to explain to the candidates. Okay, now all the candidates have drawn cards. The cards you all draw should have a number on them. What about that number? Simply put, it's the number of the test taker in the presence of the mother. What everyone's twitching sign decides is the hunter and the hunted. When the candidates heard Lieber's words, they immediately became tense, and the atmosphere became solemn. Mr. Examiner, what exactly do you mean by this? Xiaoji, who was standing beside him, didn't seem to understand clearly. As for the night, because I knew what was coming next, I took my attention back. Your goal. He looked at Shiba who was beside him. Look. Lucky goddess, this time seems to be on Shiba's side. Marked number 66 was held in her palm. Shiba's goal was actually Yi Yi, who was also a member of the group, which seemed a little embarrassing. Here you are. But the knight just frowned. He took off his number plate and handed it to Shiba. Rather than asking her to find 3 more number cards, it's better to ask yourself to get 3 more cards. Shiba's actions towards Yi Yi. I don't know what to say, I just put it into my arms silently. But judging from the way she focused on Yi Yi, she was probably thinking about something. The other side. Lieber looked at the atmosphere with satisfaction. Simply put, the theme of the fourth test is to capture the number plate on the candidate's body. So the candidates represented by the numbers on the cards you see are your targets. When the candidates saw this, they took off their number cards one after another. There are also different candidates. Not only did they not take off the number plate, on the contrary, they put the number plate in a more conspicuous position. Hisoka. With bursts of laughter, Hisoka taped the number plate to his prominent chest. The staff on the side recorded everyone's card numbers on the flight. Also, to pass the fourth trial, you must get a 6-pointed card. When Hanzo took off his number plate, he heard Lieber reveal the new conditions. 6 o'clock. What do you mean? Lieber glanced at Hanzo. The fourth trial has a different number of points for each card. And the target number card that everyone just decided by drawing lots is 3 o'clock. The candidate's own number plate is also 3 o'clock. Simply put, if you successfully capture the target's number plate, you can also protect your own number plate. This fourth test is considered a pass. By the way, you can get 1 point by taking the number plate of the candidate outside the prey. It's not impossible if you want to get 6 points this way. After Lieber finished speaking, he pointed to the vigilant island under his feet. The exam venue is an entire island, and we will stay on the alert island for a week. Anyway, then it's your fault, Carrot. Female staff gets instructions from Lieber. Stand up and announce, good news to everyone. Next, I will tell all the candidates present a piece of good news. All candidates who participate in the fourth test will have unconditional promotion privileges in the first test of the Hunter test next year. So, even if you fail this year, you can try again next year. It's just that this so-called good news is more like cursing everyone to continue taking the exam next year. Candidates who have persisted until now hope that they can obtain a Hunter license in one go. Looking at the indifferent candidates, she still had a smile on her face, but she was the only one who knew what was on her mind. Next, students have 20 minutes to prepare. Yi and Shiba were also the third test that was completed after being stuck in time. The order in which the two set off was relatively backward. Just 2 ahead of Xiaoji and the others. 2 more. Chapter 35_. Shiba took a step forward and walked towards the center of the island. The two have discussed it in advance. She waited for Yi in front and continued to act together. It's just that she didn't notice that something swayed on the treetops not far away. 10 minutes later. Yi followed the trail left by Shiba and found it along the road. It's just that when Yi found her, the environment she was in was obviously not friendly. As a sniper. For Shiba, the fourth test was a test that showed his strengths. This is enough to see her ability from her secret tracking of Ilmi. It is a pity that after Nien practice reaches a certain level, he is no longer afraid of the attack of ordinary firearms. At this moment, Shiba was hiding among the treetops, waiting for Yi to arrive. It's just that Shiba didn't realize that a blowing barrel had secretly aimed at her. 3.2.1. A hider in the dark, counting down the attack time in his heart. PFF'd. Arrows stained with unknown purple liquid were blown out from the blow barrel. Shoot straight at Shiba hidden in the treetops. Crucial moment. Shiba vaguely felt something, and his body subconsciously dodged. Crack. Arrows stick easily into treetops. Dodging the sneak attack, Shiba quickly left the treetops where he was hiding and ran towards the denser forest. Based on this arrow, he quickly guessed the identity of the sneak attacker in the dark. Exploding library children. No, his arrows are not that big, Greta, it should be him. At the same time, he observed the surrounding environment, looking for a place to counterattack. As a sniper, it has become almost instinctive. The other side. Cut, did you miss it? Seeing Shiba run away, Greta quickly jumped down from the big tree she was hiding. He hides in a nearby tree just to hunt his prey, Xiaoji. However, he did not expect that the hiding spot he had chosen would be valued by others as well. It's just that Greta is a step ahead. Next, Greta looked at Sheba and hid in the treetops. Although Sheba was not Greta's target, the number cards of other candidates also had a point value. Just in case, Sheba, who delivered it to the door himself, was determined to win. It's a pity that he forgot that Sheba was not the hunter's test that he came to participate in alone. Shoot him, the gun. A beam of white light shot out quickly under the scorching sun. A distance of several hundred meters can be easily crossed at a speed that is indistinguishable to the naked eye. PFF'd. Greta jumped from the tree, still in midair. He looked at the blade piercing his chest in disbelief. How is it possible? Struggling to look back, all you can see is the blade that extends from nowhere. What he saw at this moment was beyond his comprehension. Reaching out and grabbing the blade of the long knife that spanned several hundred meters, I tried to push myself out of it. But the next moment. Click tilde. The long knife turned 45 in the body. A large amount of blood spit out from Greta's mouth. The adjusted long knife slashed out from the body to the right, and then quickly returned to its original position. Moment. Greta's body was cut in half. Ah. The pain that almost cut through his entire body made Greta roar frantically. Falling to the ground, blood continued to flow around. The internal organs in the body also spilled out because of the constant rolling. A moment. Greta died tragically in endless pain. Pat. A figure in the distance flew quickly from the sky. The person who attacked me doesn't know who gave you the guts. Looking at the bloody scene on the ground, Yi-Yi's expression didn't change at all. For him, the scene of the Sky Arena game is much more spectacular than this. Clap tilde. Turning over the corpse on the ground, he searched for Greta's number plate. However, there was an unexpected harvest that Yi-Yi did not expect. Number 362_. Look at the two number cards in your hand. Yi-Yi had to sigh with emotion that Greta's luck was indeed good. Today is only the first day, and a target has been successfully hunted. If Sheba hadn't escaped the sneak attack, he would have had a 5-point number card on the first day. Unfortunately, Greta's number plate is now owned by Yi-Yi. He threw the two number cards up and down a few times and put them in his pocket. Now that Greta has resolved. There is no need to stay here any longer. 10 minutes later. Yi-Yi found Sheba, who had already hidden himself, near a meadow. She, who had just been attacked once, was in the most focused state. Yi-Yi Chuan walked through the grass, and there was a faint sound of brushing between his body and the grass. Make her ready to fight back. It was only after she saw the familiar black top hat on Yi-Yi's head that she stopped this plan. Greta, I cut it right off. Looking at Sheba who climbed up from the grass, Yi-Yi said something along the way. Sheba heard the words, but did not show any excitement. When she came to find it at night, she could smell a faint smell of rust. There is already speculation in mind. Yi-Yi's words just confirmed her thoughts. That guy's ability to hide is better than mine. Honestly admit that you are not as good as others, this is not a shameful thing. Only in the front of the self-awareness can people make better progress. Find a good location first and make a shelter, after all, it's going to be here for a week. Both are often on missions in the field. Making a shelter is still within your grasp. Half an hour later. The two looked at the halfway up of a mountain. Not far from this location, there is a flowing water source. At the speed of the two, it only takes a few minutes to go back and forth. Backed by the mountains, there will not be too much wind. It's a good shelter option. After determining the location, Yi-Yi and Sheba searched for suitable materials to make a simple house. If this test is done, it will be one person at night. He could just find a tree and dig a hole in the trunk to get through it. But since Sheba is there, neither of them mind making it more suitable for living. 3 shifts. Ask for flowers, evaluation tickets, and hit me hard. Chapter 36 _ Day 3. Into the night. One night, a wild boar was beaten as food for the night. In the past few days of living on the alert island, I accidentally discovered Shiba's good cooking skills. Although in the second food experiment, she also did not make sushi, but this does not mean that she is not good at making food. On the contrary, in her sniper career, she often received assassination missions to the wilderness. Although with the minimum survival standard, she can also complete the task perfectly. But since they can live a little better, who wouldn't want to? Therefore, Shiba developed the habit of carrying all kinds of seasonings at any time. The peeled and dirty roasted pig was put on a stick and rolled over and over on the fire. The golden oil is particularly attractive in the wild. Although there are not enough conditions, it is not bad to be able to do this. Compared to the first day that Shiba came to the island, he seemed more comfortable at this time. Perhaps compared to the first 3 trials, this 4th trial is her real home. Or maybe it was because of the basic knowledge of reading on the night, I was more confident in the next exam. All in all, Shiba at this moment. Even more attractive than when we first met. Okay, the meat is almost cooked and ready to eat. Gently cut the roast pork on the fire in front of you with a knife. Shiba checked and shouted to Yi, who was looking up at the starry sky boredly. In the past few days, the two were not in a hurry to hunt those candidates. On the contrary, the two came to Bayer Island, like an outing. Find some beautiful environment during the day, and teach Shiba the relevant knowledge about recitation. In the evening, Yi or Shiba, the two of them took turns to grab some food. Compared to the candidates who fought each other for number cards, the two of them simply didn't live too happily. Eat well and drink enough, put out the fire in front of you. The two returned to the shelter that had been placed in advance, ready to rest. After getting along for so long, Shiba also knew that Yi was meditating instead of sleep every day. Although I was curious, I didn't ask too much. Knowing that when Yi is meditating, he can easily perceive the surrounding environment and play the role of vigil. Shiba has slept adequately for the past few days. Good night, night 1. After a good night farewell, Shiba fell asleep. It's just that compared to the tranquility here, the forest in the distance is the opposite. Yi opened his eyes and looked down at the distant forest. According to the soul fluctuations that Reiatsu sensed, it should be that guy Hisoka. He was stimulated. With his exaggerated perception ability, Yi can easily perceive everything that happens in the forest. The person who was unrestrained, murderous and thoughtful was Hisoka. But Hisoka was stimulated, what does it have to do with himself? With this thought in mind, Yi continued his meditation. Just at a distance of several hundred meters away from Yi, the 4th minder in the hunter's test was now quietly hidden in the canopy of trees. Looking at the shelter in the distance, I don't know what to think. For this person, Yutien discovered his existence early and kept him until now, just so that he could play a more important role. Yi will pretend to be ignorant, leaving him a small life. The poor man in the cloak thought he was well hidden, but he didn't know that he had been discovered early in the morning. In this wave, the man in the cloak was on the 3rd floor, and Yi was on the 5th floor. The sky is getting brighter. Shiba's biological clock also woke her up. After a simple wash, he came to Yi's side. It seems to be asking about the next arrangement. Shiba, who rolled his eyes and moved closer to him, Yi did not speak, but just resumed his meditation state. A few hours later, Yi withdrew from the state of meditation, got up and moved his body. Moment. A crackling sound came from Yi. This also attracted Shiba in the maintenance of weapons. Open the sperm hole today. Looking at Shiba, who was looking at him curiously, Yi's icy face seemed to soften a little. Really? The sudden joy slammed into Shiba's heart. After a few days of imparting knowledge related to the ability to read, Shiba could not say that he knew the basics of the ability to read. But some simple common sense is still understood. At the very least, she knew what it meant to open a sperm hole. Really? Looking at the cheering girl, Yi-Yi's mood also seemed to change. Just before that, you need to go and get a few cards. I don't know if it's a coincidence. In Yi-Yi's perception, there are nearly 10 kinds of soul fluctuations around his location. The most notable one is the man in the cape. Secondly, it is the kind of existence that is drenched in black, but still has a trace of white light. It's rather special. And in Chi-Chi Mother Water, there are 4 different fluctuations. In this regard, Yi-Yi said that he had all his points alive. How many cards to take? The sudden jump in thinking made Shiba unable to react. Just now I was talking about awakening myself, but the next moment it became to get the card. Without waiting for Shiba's consent, Yi-Yi had already linked her with spiritual pressure. Fly quickly in the direction of the wave. In the first few tests, there was no need to demonstrate the ability to fly. Therefore, it was the first time Shiba saw Yi-Yi fly in the air. At this moment, even Shiba, who has a strong heart, can't ignore it. The hustle and bustle of the wind passed by the ears of the two of them. The next moment, the altitude begins to drop. After all, an island doesn't have much area. Under the high-speed flight of Yi-Yi, it took a few seconds to arrive at the concrete bath of Kijireshuo. Boom tilde. The two landed on the ground. Although the ground was not damaged, a cloud of dust was stirred up out of thin air. But the sonic boom surprised the 4 in the confrontation. What's the situation? The younger brother in the trio had just discovered that Chi Yuan was taking the number plate in his pocket. Next moment, something in the sky fell straight down. If it is a little bit off, maybe it will hit him. Cold sweat frantically broke out from his forehead, and the trio's younger brother shouted exaggeratedly. The 2 older brothers who were a little further away from the younger brother were also frightened by this sudden change. Only Chi Yan's complexion changed instantly. The body quickly took a dozen steps back uncontrollably. 4 shifts. There is one more update later this weekend. There is no class this weekend, so work hard for the 5th update. Chapter 37_. You can't be wrong, the face you just saw is definitely him. With his own dynamic vision far exceeding that of normal people, Lady Nabuluo of Chichulu Hanging Huan Dumpling Temple could see who the visitor was. Although I don't know why the 2 of them came from the air, this did not prevent him from being in danger. He never forgot the guess about Yi-Yi's identity. If he's really an ill fan, he's definitely coming for me. Before leaving, he stabbed his mother who was obstructing him. This is enough to make Ilmi come to find herself. Yi-Yi didn't know that Chi Peptide Academy V Wei Wanxian was Fu's mother fashionable Mandium too. A sharp wave of the left hand. The dust that had permeated in front of him dissipated in an instant. Yi-Yi's face was also exposed to the eyes of the 3 Amory brothers. Yes, it's the kid who knew the president. The younger brother Amori subconsciously exclaimed when he saw Yi-Yi Shi. Although Yi-Yi's first 3 tests were very low-key, the scene where Nitro talked to him still imprinted in the minds of many students. Even if you only know Yi-Yi's name, it doesn't hurt everyone to be vigilant about him. Your name is Yi-Yi, I remember correctly. Knight's goal, Amori on the 198th. He asked Yi-Yi cautiously. Although I don't know the purpose of Yaiki, but from the performance of coming here on purpose, it should be for the number plate. Although he had a rough guess in his heart, he might as well ask carefully. My target number 198 Amori. Yi Yijuan didn't mind stating his goals. In the face of absolute strength, all cleverness was useless. Do you hand it over yourself, or do I pick it up myself? Approaching slowly towards the 3 brothers. Ling Lai's murderous aura rested on the 3 brothers. But, damn it, it wasn't luck that we were able to make it to the 4th trial. Amori was not surprised that someone would come to hunt him, and even made preparations for a counterattack in advance. Big brother, second brother. He turned to look at the two older brothers behind him, hoping they could help him. Cut, 1 or 2, you're such a piece of shit, Emery. Emery's eldest brother, Ben, is still in the shock of Yi Yi's murderous aura. But I could hear that my brother, who has always been weak, was able to say such words. Struggling to regain control of his body. The second brother on the side reacted the same way. Amori, get ready. The three brothers have independently developed a formation that is conducive to the advantages of the three according to their tacit understanding of training for many years. Perhaps in the world of ordinary people, they can beat most people with this move. Unfortunately, Yi Yi was not an ordinary person. Useless struggle, just give up resistance. Shiba recovered from the shock of flying high in the sky. The three brothers were ready to attack Yi Yi. Knowing Yi Yi's exaggerated strength, she couldn't understand the behavior of the three brothers. If you give up your resistance, you might be able to survive. Get along for a few days. Shiba also had a general understanding of Yi Yi's code of conduct. Never be soft on your enemies. If you can cut the weeds and remove the roots, you will never leave alive. Regarding the counterattack of the three brothers, Yi Yi took a look around. The next moment, the figure disappeared from the sight of the three. Sure enough, it's definitely him. Yoichi watched as something disappeared like a ghost. Chijijia in the distance confirmed what he was thinking. Only Ilmi has such a fast speed. Compared to the situation where the three brothers can't figure out their minds. The more powerful Chi-Shi. It was clearly seen that Yi Yi came between the three of them at an extremely fast speed. The figure twisted slightly, and a white light quickly passed through the air. The next moment, Yi Yi's figure reappeared behind the three brothers. It's just that he has 2 more number cards in his hand than he was empty-handed before. No, 197, no, there is a key number 198 missing. He wiped away the blood stains on his hands. Yi Yi looked at the number plate in his hand, a little confused. For the content of the plot, he has long forgotten about the same, but he doesn't know the number plate 198. At this moment, he is very young and strange and neon. Yi Yi's voice fell, and the three people who were in a battle seemed to react. He looked terrified, clutching his throat in confusion. After a few voices. This forest has more fresh nourishment. Then, is the number 198 I need in your hands. Chi Yanjin. Turning his body, Yi Yi's eyes were cast into the distance. Although in the plot, the night pair is odd and he will become a similar existence to his junior brother in a few months. But in reality, Yi Yi and Chi Guiwan were not even friends. In such a tangle, Yi Yi still chose to face it according to his usual attitude. When Chi Pei Gongwei falsely bragged about the bad news, he quickly took a dozen steps back. But he didn't leave the scene, he just stood and watched from a distance. Cut, it's really you. Hearing Yi Yi addressing himself so calmly, Chi Chuan confirmed his thoughts. I just stabbed that old woman, you just come here, it's boring enough. I don't know if it was his cold tone that made him misunderstand something. However, Chi Arson's heartfelt criticism undoubtedly showed that he could negotiate normally. My target number 198, we can exchange. The 2 number cards were taken out by Yi Yi and faced Chiguan times Sijalong. No, my goal is no. For this suggestion. Chi Yangonwan swayed his stance, but his words undoubtedly acquiesced to Yi Yi's exchange. Whoosh tilde. The number plate of the number was thrown to Chi by Yi Yi carelessly. He wasn't afraid of the odd punishment, but it was just a waste of time. Cut, it's still so boring. Reach out and grab the flying number 198, Shishi Xian Dang Mu flew out. Crack tilde. The number plate was held firmly in Yi Yi's hand. 5 more. Chapter 38_. The number plate of number 198 was broken by a strange mirage and a fan. Crack. The number plate was firmly grasped in his hand. With a flick of his wrist, the number plate was tucked into Yi Yi's cuff. Those who are secretly watching should come out too. The next moment, a stone was thrown from Yi-Yi's hand. Scoff tilde. With its own strength alone, the stone pierced through a tree. A figure suddenly jumped down from the tree that was penetrated. Wait, I have no ill will towards you. Chiba and Chi-Chi-Muchung instantly became ugly. The two of them did not find anyone hiding in the dark at all. Hanzo, a ninja from an island country who boasts that he has trained hard for many years. Looking at the shining bald head, Shiba Dao revealed his identity. Since there is no malice towards us, then what are your plans to hide in the dark? Regarding Hanzo's information, Yi vaguely remembered that he broke Xiaoji's arm, and the rest was forgotten. Take it easy, you see, I'm just following my goals. I just came here. I have no plans to fight with you at all. Facing Yoichi who seemed to be attacking at any moment, Hanzo hurriedly took out the card in his hand. Let Yi believe that he has no ill will towards them. Honestly, the number plate of the number is only 1 point for you, but it is 3 points for me. Witness the process of Yi and Chi Yan also changing locusts. In Hanzo's mind, the thought of an exchange also occurred. As a ninja, completing tasks with minimal effort is their motto. Look, I have 2 non-target numbers on me, and it's only 2 for me. Saying that, Hanzo took out 2 number cards from his ninja bag. Want me to trade with? Number plates 89 and 362 in Hanzo's hands. Yoichi's eyes narrowed slightly. Yi thought about the gains and losses in his heart. To solve him now, it can only provide 0.01% of the unlocking progress, but when he masters the mind in the future, the unlocking progress he can provide becomes 0.5%. Thoughts fly. The appearance of Yoichi's thinking was mistaken by Hanzo for thinking about the number plate. He didn't know at all that Yi was thinking about whether it was worth it to solve him now. Although I have let him go now, I may not be able to meet him in the future, and the cooked duck will fly away again. But the unlocking progress that can be provided now is only 0.01%, which can be provided by killing a pig. His 0.01% doesn't seem to be that important. Half a day passed. Yi finally made a decision. The number plate of number 1, exchange your 2 useless number plates. Hand in hand no, flies to Hanzo. 2 number cards in Hanzo's hand. Crack tilde. I didn't expect Yi's actions to be so straightforward. But Hanzo's movements were not slow. With a soft sound, no, was firmly grasped by Hanzo in his hand. Naturally, I didn't suffer from a 2-point number instead of a 3-point number. Hanzo naturally did not refuse Yoichi's request. Even in the beginning, he planned to do so. As for escaping with a number plate, this idea only appeared for a moment, and was abandoned by Hanzo. Since it can be resolved peacefully, there is no need to create extra branches. No, I put the number plate in this tree hole, you can take it yourself later. 2 number cards were inserted into the tree hole by Hanzo. After doing all this, Hanzo just jumped a few times and disappeared in front of everyone. The reason why he left in such a hurry was because he felt the murderous aura faintly exuding from Yi. Just to be on the safe side, at the moment of closing the deal, Hanzo chose to leave the place quickly. What a pity. Looking at Hanzo who was far away, Yoichi's tone seemed a little regretful. In the previous thinking, he gave the choice to Hanzo. If he completes the deal honestly, let him go on the night. On the other hand, if he wants to do something small, Yi doesn't mind taking a head. Okay, the number plates have been collected, so it's time to do something serious. Go to the tree hole where the number plate is placed and take it out. The purpose of coming here has been completed, and there is no need to stay here. Compared to the 2 points when you came over. Now he has collected 6 points, and even has a few more cards. Hello, are you leaving like this? Chi Ping Ping Ji Yu Huan came over and still recognized Yi as his eldest brother. Some are not used to his actions of simply leaving. Xiaoji, he seems to have encountered some difficulties. Glancing at Chizu, who is talking to himself. Close your eyes and think for a while, and drop a message. Pung tilde tilde. Reiatsu covered both of them again. Next moment. The two of them flew away silently in the eyes of Chi-yun. Jay, what happened to him? Only the one who was inexplicably nervous was left. Flying in the sky, Yi Yi was a little silent. Tell Xiaoji the current situation, he doesn't know if he is doing the right thing. But in the original book, he was able to participate in the last test safely, and it was more due to luck. No bunnies that deliver berries. His body has no nutritional intake. After a few days, even Xiaoji's body will fall into serious weakness. As for why he told Qi-yan, it wasn't that he deliberately flattered the protagonist. In the future, the two will eventually become his junior and junior brothers, and he is just a kind reminder. Not to mention, the rabbits I caught before tasted really good, but it's a pity. There are only dozens of them on the whole island, and they were all eaten in 2 days. Back to shelter. Shiba looked at the rabbit skins discarded at random in the distance, and recalled the previous taste. Hunting these days. Consciously ignore preying on rabbits at night. But when it comes to Shiba, I saw that she used a rope to catch nearly 100 rabbits. Then under the perception of Yi yielding pressure, it is found that the reproductive ability of this rabbit seems to be different from the rabbits he is familiar with. Rabbits of this species have since become extinct from the Beacon Island. Chapter 39_. Back to shelter. 3 hours have passed. Because he promised to help Shiba open the static hole in advance, and Yi had no habit of breaking his promise. After a simple meal, the two came to a meadow. Compared with other places, it is easier for Shiba to feel calm here. In the past few days, I was looking for a relatively good environment. With this help Shiba opened the hole and controlled the overflowing essence. Yi didn't know if anyone had tried this method before. But compared to those noisy environments, it is more peaceful here. In the shade, Shiba sat cross-legged and the breath on his body was integrated with the surrounding environment. For snipers, like killers, hiding one's own breath is a compulsory course. Shiba became better at it after accepting the basic knowledge of Yi Nian. This is also the reason why I look at her at night. Even if you haven't mastered mindfulness, the body instinctively uses the technique of mindfulness. Although it is not smooth, it is only because the mind has not been mastered. If it wasn't for the faint sense of her breath, Yi even thought she had mastered the absolute in advance. Next, I will inject my own breath into your body to forcibly help clear the sperm holes in your body. Shiba took off his jacket, wearing only a single layer, with his back to Yi. Yi's right hand was wrapped around a small amount of thought. He pressed against Shiba's back from a distance. Prepare. Point 1. Drink. A thought was suddenly injected into Shiba's body by Yi. For Shiba, this thought energy was not much or not, as the so-called just right. Under this sudden rush, she subconsciously shouted. Tilde. Next moment, a colorless and transparent aura quickly overflowed from Shiba's body. The first step is a success. You can see the colorless aura wrapped around yourself. Facing Shiba, who opened his eyes at an unknown time and looked at himself in surprise, Yi gave a short answer. Next, you need to keep the chi in your own body. I didn't wait for Shiba to reply. Yaiki went on to teach how to retain chi. Meditate with your eyes closed and think about how you just felt at one with nature. The voice falls. Shiba in front of Yi returned to his previous state. It took less than 3 seconds. Imagine you are the whole of nature. The river flows in you, the wind cheers in you. The breath in your body is the various creatures that live in you. Birds, butterflies, lions, elephants. They run around on you and make a beautiful landscape. Ultimately, all living things in your body coexist in natural harmony. Invisible armor to defend against foreign invaders. Compared with the description of Xiaoji et al. Yi deliberately changed it according to Shiba's current state. With Yi's prompt, Shiba's thoughts slowly calmed down. 3 minutes later. Open your eyes, feel your current state, and carve it into your soul. Seeing Shiba who successfully used the entanglement, Yi continued to enlighten. It's like being in a mother's arms, it's very warm. Shiba opened his eyes and told his feelings. Clap tilde clap tilde clap tilde. That's what it feels like. Yi clapped his hands to express his encouragement to her. Although there is no Xiaoji and Qixin, he successfully mastered the entanglement in just a few seconds. But compared to the vast majority of capable people, mastering it in 3 minutes is already full of talent. Next, I will release a bad thought on you, try to see if you can reach it. Turning his head, Shiba did not understand that Yi wanted to release his evil thoughts. What happens if you resist successfully, and what if you don't? Subconscious inquiries did not get Yi's explanation. What greeted her was a thought that contained Yi's malicious intent. I'm going to kill you. At this moment, the thought seems to have become a little sticky. The tranquility of the entire meadow was broken. The birds on the surrounding trees flew away in panic. A group of ants lined up under a tree in the distance, in a hurry. The clouds in the sky were swept away by the invisible air at this moment. But Shiba, who was at the center of his evil thoughts, felt a wave of disgust, but there was no other discomfort. Seeing this, a smile unnaturally drawn from the corner of Yi's mouth. Congratulations, you have successfully acquired mindfulness. He walked to the front of Shiba and stretched out his hand to pull him up. This is the so-called reading, this is amazing. When I stood up, my body seemed to be much lighter. Seeing Shiba, who got up and felt the state, was very excited. Yi was going to find a toy for her to get used to the existence of habit. I'm going to find a toy back. After saying a word to the excited Shiba, Yi disappeared in place. The other side. The man in the cloak hidden in the treetops is the so-called cross. Watch to teach Shiba to master the ability of mind. Heart cannot help but jealous. Damn, why should someone help you to open your mind, why? The jealousy in his heart has made his breath disordered. Sure enough, I should have killed that woman sooner. Just the next moment. Damn, the target disappeared again. The broken thoughts are over and continue to follow. But his goal disappeared without a trace at this moment. This kind of situation happened once or twice a day during the few days I came to Bayer Island. The more times it happened, the more he got used to it. Unfortunately, this time, he miscalculated. A voice came from behind Cross. Oh, I probably have some guesses about the awakening method of your recitation, but what does this have to do with me? The moment he heard the voice, Cross subconsciously wanted to run away. However, it was too late. PFF'd. As the hand knife was cut out, a figure fell from the tree. It's time to do something useful in keeping you alive so long. Yi's icy smile was deeply reflected in Cross's eyes at this moment. 2 more. Ask for flowers, ask for collections. Chapter 40_. Near the grass. Although Shiba was a little confused about Yi's sudden departure. But the newly acquired ability made her feel extremely novel. Thinking of every battle of Yi, it was solved with a hand knife. This gave her new ideas. Since the mind can be condensed in the hand, it should also extend to the weapon held in the hand. Under this idea, Shiba took out a pistol from the weapon bag near the root of the tree. Install the muffler. The thought flows from the hand to the pistol. After a while, it failed. Feeling a little stretched toward the pistol, I returned to my own thoughts. Shiba understood that his attempt was unsuccessful. However, although this was unsuccessful, it also showed her thoughts, which were generally correct. At least the spirit can indeed be attached to the weapon. When Yi came back with the struggling toy, what he saw was Shiwana's constant attempts. My own mind uses the technique of entanglement to wrap it around objects that are in contact with the body. This technique is called weak. Yi gave Shiba a sentence about the ability she tried. Throwing the toy in his hand aside, Yi didn't care whether Cross dared to escape. The moment he grabbed him, Yoichi used the shackles to bind him. Binding Road Number 4 Gray Rope. It is the ability to bind the opponent with a golden ghost rope. Of course, in terms of the inheritance that Yi has now mastered, although only the first 30 ghost paths can be used, this gray rope is enough. Jo is the application skill of reciting. Don't think about it until you have mastered Tang. Although Yi only learned the 4 elements of chanting and applied skills in just 1 month. But that doesn't mean he doesn't understand the importance of foundations. He is also an applied skill that he only comes into contact with after he has mastered the entanglement, absolute, and practice of the 4 major elements. As a novice, rashly using higher level skills is more likely to hurt yourself. Yes, is it? Shiba did not expect that his casual test would have so many restrictions. When you have mastered the 4 majors, then consider applying skills. S words ended the discussion on Jo. Nodding, showing that he obeyed Yaiki. Subsequently, the mysterious black-robed man who kept twisting on the side attracted Shiba's attention. Who is this guy? Reaching out to Cross, he asked Yi. Don't worry too much about the sandbags I brought for you to practice your hands. Yi didn't have much introduction. After all, even he himself only probably knew his origins. Yi was not interested in his name or surname. But, damn it, I'm a member of the Nasla family. If you know each other, you'd better let me go. Perhaps knowing that there is no way to escape alone. Cross pinned his hopes on his own family. It's just that Cross didn't know it, as early as when Stanny was ordered to come to solve Yi. It has already revealed the existence of the Nasla family to Yi. Therefore, his threats have no practical significance. Next, you should try to operate the Tang that you just mastered and keep attacking this person. With the constant attacks on him, feel the use of the Tang until you completely master it. Glancing at one of the corpses lying on the ground, Ye issued a training plan to Shiba, who was still curious beside him. Can directly have the ability to act as a sandbag. Shiba's treatment is comparable to that of Xiaoji and Qiguanyu. The strength of Cross is judged by his thoughts. Compared with the killing Dasuo and his like in the Sky Arena, it is not known how much stronger. This should also be the reason why the Nasra family sent him to solve Yi. It's a pity, although Yi Nian's awakening time is not too long. However, his terrifying cultivation talent made him stronger rapidly. Comparable to his own teacher, Yun Ji Yu. Is it really possible? Isn't this guy from the Nasra family? I remember he was quite famous in the underworld. As a sniper who walks in the dark, Shiba is quite familiar with some underworld information. Therefore, I am puzzled by Yi's decision. Oh, it's just a family that can be destroyed easily, don't worry about it. The corners of his mouth rose slightly, full of disdain. The following few days, Shiba relies on Cross to hone his entanglement. I have to say that this kind of exercise is much faster than the mere penance. Yaiki just restrained Cross's movements and hung it on a tree. Shiba's attack on him, he can still rely on his own entanglement to defend. It's just that he couldn't fight back against Shiba. This is what the knight wants. If a sandbag was killed casually, it would not even qualify as a sandbag. Gradually, as Shiba became more and more proficient in entangling, the time came to the last day. All candidates, this is the end of the 4th test. An airship flies over Alert Island. The end of the 4th trial came from the loudspeaker. All candidates, please return to the starting point as quickly as possible. From now on, there is a 1-hour buffer, and candidates who arrive after 1 hour will be disqualified from the exam. Hearing the horn's message, Yi withdraws from the training. Although his current strength is somewhat stronger than that of ordinary examiners, Yi has never given up on basic cultivation. The time is up. Is this guy going to get rid of it? In the distance, Shiva finished his last training session. Looking at the sandbag with a blue nose and a swollen face, I felt a little reluctant. After a few days of training, the tingling, which was still a little green, has become more and more proficient. It can be said that without the selfless dedication of sandbags, it will take a while for her to reach this point. Well, I'll fix it. The ruthless dialogue between the two made Cross feel fortunate. Finally, is it finally over? Being hung on a tree and being beaten as a sandbag for a few days, this kind of unspeakable thing was completely unimaginable before. With the emergence of a beam of white light, Cross lost consciousness. Broken down number 4, Baile. 3 shifts.